Let me tell you, if you'd asked me a year ago whether a phone call at 3:50 a.m. could ruin your life and save it in the same breath, I'd have told you that was the sort of nonsense only folks in HOA boards believed. But then again, I used to think HOA was just an acronym for horribly overbearing asshats, not the start of a federal conspiracy. That night started like any other. Mountain air was cold enough to freeze regret. My old dog was snoring at the foot of the bed, and I was dead to the world until that phone tore through the silence like a tornado through a trailer park. Instinct from years of search and rescue snapped me awake. Usually calls at that hour mean someone's clinging to a cliff by their fingernails or lost somewhere they shouldn't be. I grabbed the receiver before it rang twice. "This is Karen Weldon, president of Summit Crest Homeowners Association," she spat out. "No, hello, no, sorry to wake you." She demanded the keys to my gate to all my buildings right now, said it was an emergency safety inspection. I just blinked, trying to remember if I was awake or still dreaming some fever nightmare about bureaucrats taking over the world. I told her she had the wrong guy. My property was never part of her precious Summit Crest, separated by a whole mile and a slab of federal forest. And anyway, what kind of HOA was working nights? She didn't like that answer one bit. "Don't you dare hang up on me," she hissed. "If you don't cooperate, I'll send the patrol up to take what we need for the safety of our community." That's when it clicked. This wasn't an inspection. This was a raid. I'd heard whispers about the new HOA president, her interest in local springs, her talk of the greater good. Thing is, my 600 acres happened to have the cleanest spring water for 50 miles, and it didn't take a genius to see where this was heading. I told her point blank, "Show up here without a warrant. You'll meet an armed landowner who knows his rights." She gave me the classic bad movie villain line, "You have no idea who you're dealing with." When she hung up, I just stood there for a moment, cold sweat mixing with the sense this was about to get real ugly, real fast. Old habits die hard. I geared up like I had a mountain rescue call. Black cargo pants, boots, flashlight radio, and my Remington magazine checked, but not chambered. I wasn't planning to shoot anyone, but in the mountains looking ready means you usually don't have to be. Grabbed my night vision and camera. If Karen's people were dumb enough to come, I wanted proof. I slipped outside, keeping to the pines. Sure enough, 2 black SUVs sat idling by my main gate, 6 figures in safety vests prowling around looking less like HOA volunteers and more like a low-rent SWAT team. One guy came up with a lockpick set, clearly not his first time on the wrong side of a padlock. I started snapping photos the whole show under their headlights. Then I spotted Karen herself, mid-50s, blonde hair, yanked back, pricey outdoor jacket, barking orders like she'd never spent a real night outdoors in her life. She sent 2 people walking my fence line, searching for weak spots. I radioed Dave Martinez, one of the few county cops who actually understood mountain folk weren't weekend warriors. Got 6 trespassing claiming HOA authority. "They're picking my lock, need backup." "Keep your head down, document everything." "I'm 15 minutes out," he answered, and I could hear in his voice this was no regular HOA squabble. Just then I decided it was time to let him know I was awake. 6 surplus floodlights snapped on, turning night into noon. All 6 froze like deer eyes, wide hands up. I grabbed my bullhorn. "You're on private property. You're being recorded. Law enforcement is on the way. Leave now." Karen, unfazed, marched straight into the light, hands on hips. "We have reports of vagrants and illegal activity. We're here to inspect. This is official HOA business." She didn't even try to waive a warrant. I asked for one anyway. She said her community authority overruled my property rights. I nearly laughed, but my camera was rolling and her own words would do more damage than anything I could cook up. But that's when the show turned sideways. A white sedan pulled up. A guy in a county-looking uniform badge, radio leather folder, got out and handed Karen some documents. She strutted over, waving them. "Final opportunity to cooperate before we proceed under emergency authority." I zoomed in, the badge, looked off, and the name on the paperwork made my blood run cold. Thomas Riley. Only Riley had been dead 18 months. I'd attended his funeral myself. I called out, "Tell me your badge number, Inspector." The fake Riley waffled. I told Karen I'd call to verify. Her face went from smug to ghostly white. "You can't call him," the fake stammered. "You're right," I shot back. "He's been dead a year and a half." Suddenly, their whole operation looked shakier than a 2-legged chair. That's about when Dave's cruiser came crawling up the mountain lights, flashing back up in tow. Karen's crew started heading for their cars, but Dave corralled the whole lot of them. Identification. Now he barked. Fake inspector handed over a badge. Dave barely glanced at it before looking him in the eye. I did Tom Riley's funeral detail. You want to explain this? The guy stammered, tried to blame paperwork. Karen tried to bluster. We're protecting our community, but Dave cut her off. No, ma'am. You're facing federal charges for conspiracy, fraud, impersonation, and criminal trespass. It was almost comical watching her face as her own hired muscle turned on her. The fake inspector, whose real name turned out to be Marcus Webb, immediately flipped, said, Karen hired them out of Denver, told them it was a civil property dispute. Surveying equipment in the trunk showed they'd planned to map and test my land, not inspect for vagrants. While Dave's deputy cataloged every license plate and face, I finally got the truth from Karen. She wanted the springs, said the community deserved clean water, and that private owners shouldn't hoard resources. In that moment, any pretense about safety went out the window. It was pure greed masquerading as public service. That I realized was the real sickness, folks dressing up theft in the language of community. By dawn, my place was swarming with federal agents. Turns out Karen's operation was only the tip of a much uglier iceberg. Her office held files on 47 properties in 3 counties, mineral rights forged documents, plans for Operation Mountain Sweep, surveillance reports, elimination strategies, even bribes to county officials. 2 local owners who'd refused to sell had died in suspicious accidents, deaths now under investigation. What chilled me most, they'd mapped every inch of my place, drones, night vision routines, even my father's death date. The level of detail was staggering. Karen hadn't just wanted my water, she'd been planning my demise for years. The springs were set to become the heart of a $50 million luxury resort. Corrupt judges and inspectors had been greased to look the other way. And when legal pressure failed, well, let's just say accidents happened. The moral lesson, if you're listening, sometimes the worst threats to your home aren't wild animals or natural disasters. It's the folks who believe their vision of the greater good entitles them to anything. People with just enough power and money to be dangerous and no scruples about how they use either. 6 months later, I found myself testifying in Denver's federal court, Karen in an orange jumpsuit, looking like someone who'd just realized the rules of monopoly don't apply in real life. Her lawyers were sharks, but the paper trail was too thick. Her own words too damning. Her obsession, her files, her plans for making me disappear in an accident, it all came out. The jury took less than 4 hours to convict her on every count: fraud, conspiracy, even murder for hire. Judge Vance handed down a life sentence. Karen's co-conspirators, judges, fake inspectors, even the locksmith got years behind bars. Every dirty penny traced through her shell companies was seized and paid out to victims. The court ordered the HOA dissolved banned from ever conducting inspections outside their boundaries again. As they led Karen out in shackles, she shot me a look that could have cracked granite. But underneath the rage, I saw something else: fear. Not just of prison, but of losing the illusion of power she'd built her whole life around. You'd think that'd be the end, but the story's got one more twist. The case made headlines, my land's now famous. I've had documentary crews call, realtors sniffing around, and even a few new threats from folks who think I'm sitting on a gold mine. So I turned my ranch into a fortress: cameras, seismic sensors, steel gates, the works. But I also met Maria Martinez, the FBI agent who led the investigation, married her, in fact. Together we turned my place into a training center for other rural property owners, teaching folks how to defend what's theirs legally and physically. And the springs still flowing cleaner than ever, now legally protected as a conservation site. Karen's dream of a spa became a wildlife preserve, and every time I see a deer drinking from that water, I think sometimes the universe really does have a sense of humor. So here's my question for you. When is it okay to fight back? And when does protecting what's yours become just another form of greed? Where's the line between justice and revenge? Ever had someone come after what you worked for, dressed up as for the good of all? Drop your stories and thoughts below. Let's see if justice still means something, or if the Karens of the world are just getting started.